All right.
Natalie Hale is also, besides everything else I'm going to say about her, I consider her one of my good friends. You know, we've known each other for at least 10 years now, Natalie.
I think it is, yeah.
About 10 years. So, Natalie Hale is an award-winning author, innovative educator, and also has a son with Down syndrome. And
38. He's 38 now.
38 now. Wow.
Okay, yeah. Go ahead.
And like all of us, I think parents, we start developing and creating things for our kids just for the love of our children. And then she shared her knowledge and everything that she had to create for her son with everyone else. And so she has many books, and she's going to tell us a little bit more about that. She has actually classes, and she's got that she's teaching other educators. So if you guys are interested, she has some training going on, and also consultations for parents. And so anyway, but I'm gonna let Natalie talk a little bit more about that. And I also wanted to tell you that our walk, November 12th, is coming up. It's gonna be in Santa Anita Park, and that's one of the ways that we can keep funding our workshops and everything else that we have. So we appreciate your support, either by volunteering or creating a team, things like that. So please get in touch with me about that. So Natalie, thank you so much for being here this morning. And like I said, I really appreciate every time she's here. She's a friend of DSALA, and she will continue to be our friend forever. Thank you so much, Natalie.
You're very welcome. And can I just tell a funny story? When I first started teaching at the DSALA, you told me years later, you told me that you and your coworker were used to going around in socks, and you would talk to each other and said, is she going to be okay with that? And the day you told me that story, it was because I was walking around the office barefoot. Like, no problem here.
You got too comfortable there, you know.
All right, thanks, Sandra. I am going to share my screen in just a second. I want to say first, I love it if you have your video on, and I don't care if you're in pajamas, you're eating breakfast, you're having your coffee, it doesn't matter, but it's really good feedback for me. I love it. So if you can do that, that's great. Thanks, Elia. Yes, thanks. All right, so now I'm going to share my screen so I can start the PowerPoint. All right, so I have to get this out of the way. Slideshow. All right, Sandra's already done that, so we're good. All right, we got that going. Let me load my PowerPoint. Here we go. All right, so the name of my company is Special Reads for Special Needs, specialreads.com for short. And the critical part of this is that the program works. And these are some of the learners that I taught at the DSALA in our little tiny office there when we had space. All right. So how many of you, just raise your hand or raise your hand digitally, how many of you have read this book, Whole Child Reading? It came out in 2016. Woodbine House was my publisher. They closed because of COVID. But recently, just this year, I have revised, updated the whole book, had it printed myself. And this is what it looks like now. It's on Amazon. And after about 8 months of really hard work with 2 translators, I now have this. So it's the Spanish translation, but it's only in ebook form. So it's on Kindle, it's on Amazon, super cheap, $9.95. So that's for you, for anybody that needs it. All right. I also have a part of the core program that I'll show you later that is also in Spanish, and that's downloadable from my website for $50. You get a whole bunch of the core program. All right. So, what is whole child reading? My business is special read for special needs, but the program is whole child reading. And you'll understand what I mean by that as we get into it. Can everybody see my screen okay? Am I actually sharing? Okay, great. Thanks. All right. All right. I designed this specifically for learners with Down syndrome, autism, and other developmental delays. This is a broad spectrum reading program because there are so many learning challenges that are crossover, that are common to developmental delays in general. All right. So one of my aphorisms is meet their need and they will read. How do we meet their need? Here we go with the method. We go in through the heart and teach to the brain. And if you read my book, you're going to see that throughout the book. We go in through the heart and teach to the brain, and that's what works. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. All right. First, I'm going to tell you where this comes from. This information has been gathered. I gathered it with work that's been done since the 50s. Sandra, is there a way to turn off that ding dong sound every time somebody wants to come in? Or maybe they'll stop coming in. That's okay. We'll leave it. We'll leave it. Okay. So it is a synthesis. After I first taught my son to read when he was 4.5, I then spent the next 30 years just studying, pulling in from everybody who is doing work with reading. All right. So I'll show you very briefly where it comes from, but it's what I consider the most effective techniques and strategies since about the 50s. So let's back up to 1989. I took my 4.5-year-old son and his 3-year-old sister into this library, and our lives changed because there was a visiting librarian on duty that day. And when I walked in, he looked at Jonathan and he said, "Can he read?" And that blew me away. I thought, this is 1989. I thought, well, they'll do that in school, won't they? How little I knew. No, they would not do that in school. We all know these kids can't learn to read, was the prevailing attitude at the time. Anyway, this librarian said to me, his name was Greg Zarnecki. He said, oh, he could read today if you knew how to teach him. Spend some time with me. I'll teach you. I'll show you how. It turned out that he had a globally delayed teenage daughter, and he had spent years studying at Glenn Dolman's Institute for the Achievement of Human Potential, practicing everything they said to do, and his daughter was doing beautifully. And he said, the reading program is the diamond of the entire Glenn Dolman system. He said, that's what I want to teach you. So he did, and then I kept studying and pulling in from other resources. So here is the 5-year-old reading his first book to grandma. And everything was very, very large because Glenn Dolman stresses that. I went overboard. So the whole book that you see there is only the right-hand page. Then the left-hand page is out of the picture, and the type was this big. So here he is at about 18, same grandma, very different kind of book. All right, so that big heart you see in the middle, that's when I started with Jonathan. That was 89. And I don't expect you to memorize any of this stuff. Oh, by the way, after the session, Sandra is going to email you a PDF of the whole PowerPoint. So anything you see here, you don't have to write down. If there's anything extra you want to write down, go for it. All right. But this started way down in 1955 with Glenn Dolman and his institute. Then nothing happened until, meanwhile, in 1970, Patricia Olwine at the University of Washington is working exclusively almost with Down syndrome. Now, the only book available to me, whoops, I have a hyperactive mouse, in 89 was this one little book here, right here, that Glenn Dolman had published, How to Teach Your Baby to Read. He targeted that to the neurotypical population, But guess where he learned his techniques? He worked with our kids, Down syndrome, autism, all kinds of brain injuries from birth, etc. That's where this came from. So don't be deceived and think, oh, that's just for regular babies. No, it's for our kids. So going on from there, finally, Pat Olwine, the blue circle down at the right bottom, she finally had this book published by Woodbine House, who turned out to be my publisher later. All right, and then we go on. In 1983, in the UK, finally, whoops, come on. Whoa, sorry about that. In the UK, they finally published their II series, Issues and Information series. And they have 3 or 4 books on teaching reading, divided by ages. So, of course, I devoured that. Now, at the same time they're doing that, they got established in 83. Glenn Doman's nephew, Robert Doman, established the NACD, National Association for Child Development. I don't know how many of you have ever heard of that, that organization. They work miracles for our kids. It's very expensive, but they work miracles. Anyway, all right. Then, and Canada got started here. Whoops, let me go back. Canada got started in 95. They have a lot of videos on YouTube. They didn't publish, but they have a lot of videos. All right. So then in 08, here in Southern California, people get very impatient for stuff, and they started yelling at Downs Ed International, no, we don't want to buy in pounds. We want to buy your materials in dollars. So 08, that got established in Southern California. All right. And then in 2016, my publisher, Woodbine House, published Whole Child Reading. Then they closed, and I had to republish. So, but like I said, this second edition is completely updated and has 2 new chapters. So my point is that in 1989, I had nothing except how to teach your baby to read, which is why I created every book he ever read for the first couple of years or so. Personal book after personal book. Each one was more involved, more advanced, smaller type, more words, etc. And by the time he was 8.5, he was a completely independent reader. My job was over. I never had to do it again. And that was that. So what does he read today? He's on his computer every waking hour. Thank God. He just loves Disney and music and safe stuff. And he's constantly, he's on Facebook Messenger with me, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 times a day. What are you doing now? How's your supper? I want you to get this CD for me. So he's a music person. So I've restricted him now. I will send him 2 CDs a month on the 1st and the 15th. And he's a calendar person. So if it's the 1st and it's not there yet, oh boy. So, okay. So what is the methodology? Letter sounds from the beginning. Don't worry about the names. Letter sounds is what is going to give them decoding clout. Initial whole word recognition. And we're talking about awesome words. We're talking about high interest for that learner. If needed, we will use analytic or implicit phonics, which is not what they're doing in school. But most of the time, you're not going to need to do that at all. All right, right brain learning techniques, right hemisphere strategies, and a base of high interest materials. All right, why is this high interest base so important? Only one reason. We teach reading for meaning, reading for meaning. When I was a kid in kindergarten and 1st grade, that was what we did. Phonics was out of style. I'll mention that a little later. Phonics was absolutely not taught in school. No form of phonics. We had repetition, Dick and Jane, look, spot, run, Dick, run, Jane, run. Repetition, and it was about meaning, and we knew our letter sounds, and that was it. All right, another one of my favorite flags I like to wave. If they read for meaning, if that's how they started out and they thought that's why they're learning to read, to find out what's in the book or the paper or whatever, they read for life. If they read for meaning, they read for life. They're not reading to decode. Decoding happens naturally. They're reading for meaning. And I have a little story about that. So in our family, the Lion King is a big deal. So we were all living in Cincinnati, where my kids and their dad still live. I live in LA. And we all went to see the Lion King on Broadway because it came to Cincinnati. Fabulous. All right. I spent bucks on the big program for Jonathan with all the little tiny microscopic type that tells about the background of the artist and the designer and all of that, all of which he can tell you about. But anyway, so intermission comes and the lights go up and Jonathan gets the program and he's just studying the program. And I said, you want to come get a drink with the rest of us? No. He just wanted to sit there and read. Fine. So show's over. We're driving home. And his dad and his sister and I are raving about Scar. Oh, Scar was awesome. We didn't know who it was. So as we're yapping about how great he was, Jonathan pipes up from the back seat and he says, yeah, Scar was played by Patrick Page. He also played the role of Lumiere in Beauty and the Beast on Broadway. And we're going, okay. Because he was reading the program, because he thought that's why you learn to read. So you can read about really cool stuff that you're interested in. So if they read for meaning, they read for life. So I said, we teach reading for meaning. Is there another goal? Is there a secondary goal? And the UK International, Downs Ed International backs me up on this. Yes, we have a secondary goal. We teach reading to teach talking. I've heard from so many parents whose kids come into the reading sessions at the beginning of study, they're putting 2 words together, maybe 3. And then parents come in a few months later and they say, she's putting together 5 words, just talking to us. And that never, ever happened before. It's because she's reading 5 words together. It just helps enormously because a lot of our kids, with auditory issues, if they can see the word and hear it at the same time, that makes the difference and they're able more to reproduce it. So here's an example. This was at the offices at the DSALA. Now this is little Emily. This is when she first came into me. I want you to watch her mouth and watch her tongue. Later on, when we meet again, I'm going to be going into detail about apraxia, CAS, childhood apraxia of speech. We're not going to go into that today. But what I'm showing you is a child who does actually not have apraxia at all, but she has what I make up all these syndromes. She has TMT syndrome, too much trouble. My son used to say that, it's too much trouble. All right, so she has TMT syndrome. It's a lot of trouble. If your tongue has hypotonia and you're trying to deal with it, it's a lot of trouble. So anyway, watch her mouth and listen to what she says. It's just echolalia. She basically just repeats the words I just said to her. So Emily, what did you do in school today?
Emily, school.
Emily, school.
What did you do in school today? What?
But she's not moving her mouth.
Oh, you did good.
All right.
Yeah. Well, what did?
All right. Now this is Emily 2 years later. No change in speech therapy. But her devoted grandmother brought her every week to her reading class. All right, here we go.
Start. Okay. Look is
Right here.
is me.
What is this?
See
Good job.
me.
Uh-huh.
Play.
Very good.
I play. And jump.
Good job. It's amazing.
Me.
What is that?
Mom.
Ma.
My.
Good job.
Ball.
Look down at the word. Ball. Uh-huh.
Ball.
Start over again. My.
Boy. Ball. Is down.
Very good. So, okay. No apraxia, TMT syndrome. And look what reading did for her. All right. So we're going to go into that much more detail, much more, because one of the big flags I wave is underdiagnosis of apraxia. It's critically underdiagnosed with our kids with Down syndrome because they get the pediatrician or specialist who says, it's just Down syndrome. We expect that. No, it's not, and we don't expect it. All right. So phonics. We're just going to take a really quick bounce into phonics, all right? It's what I call the phonics fist fight because there is such a disagreement. No, we have to do synthetic phonics, which is the meaningless parts, the diphthongs, digraphs, blends. We have to learn those first. We don't learn words. We learn these units of sounds, of blends and such first. And then there's the guys on the other side who say, no, whole word reading. That's how we go. So there's been such disagreement about this that I thought some doctoral student or master's student has done a research paper on this, and I don't have to do it. So I'm going to look it up. Sure enough, I found a research paper on it, and this is what I found out. All right, here's the history. Since the mid 1600s, 4 centuries of disagreement. Now, what is the pattern? Many studies have been done on both sides. They took turns in prominence. Every 30 to 50 years, the pendulum would swing. Okay, right now we're in the pendulum swing over here with synthetic phonics. Wait about 20 years, it's going to swing back. Whether we're around or not, it'll swing back. So because it never worked the way each camp wanted it to work, so each time phonics returned to power, it was different because it hadn't worked previously. So then it's tweaked and it's done differently. Now, the important thing to remember is both sides have great research. They can back up their position with research. So what do? We consider the learning weaknesses in Down syndrome when we choose an approach. Down syndrome, autism, other delays. We want to meet the needs of the child, right? In my generation, I just said that we learn to read by sight, by repetition. So this is interesting. Because part of what I preach is huge type, double spaces between the words, da 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 da. All right, on the left side of the screen, this is an original page from when I was a kid. Now you can buy Dick and Jane, and I have on Amazon, and this is what you get. Look at the tiny type. This is not how we learned. All right. Oh, and look, so on the left side, not only is the type large, but they are putting extra spaces between every word. Why do we do that? I preach this all the time. Everything that you create for your child, if you're creating materials of your own, you have to double space between each word. Why? It's because we just took away one job of that emergent reader brain. So the brain doesn't have to figure out where does that word stop and where does that one start? I don't know. No, we separate them. Makes it so easy for the brain. All right. In the UK, the same thing was happening. This is one of their books. We had Dick and Jane. UK had Peter and Jane. All right. I like to say Jane really got around. She hopped across the ocean. So look at the spaces. They're putting triple spaces between every word. Now, one thing they did smartly that we didn't, they used a sans serif font. There are no little curly cues on the end of the letters, whereas if you look here, those are serifs. Those little things, like if you look at the H, those little lines at the bottom are on the end of every letter. Those are called serifs. All right. So sans serifs means no serifs. All right. And that's what England used, which was much smarter than what we had here. All right. We teach reading for meaning. What approach should we take? Let's consider the learning weaknesses in Down syndrome when we choose an approach. What am I talking about? Let's look at this. Learners with Down syndrome typically have difficulty discriminating sounds, poor short-term memory, poor auditory memory, short auditory memory. And I think I have the slide a little bit later of teaching the letter W. So if I say to a child, if I'm not doing the sounds and if I'm just trying to get the letter names in, which I don't recommend. So this, jagged line is W. What's that? What's that letter? U. That's what I heard you say. I have short auditory memory. The last thing you said was you. So that's letter U. Short auditory memory. We have to remember this. Fluctuating hearing loss throughout life with the tubes in the ears and the small ear canals. Deficits in auditory processing, which of course impact phonological awareness. So if we feel like we have to teach phonics, we use analytic phonics from the meaningful whole word, meaningful to the parts. High interest words are learned first, then broken into parts. Decoding ability simply grows with experience, which my generation and the next decade, we all learned with Dick and Jane, and our decoding ability just grew. We just figured it out, just like my sons did. I did not teach him phonics. Letter sounds, personal books. He had figured out how to decode. Proof of that. So he's about 8.5 years old. My job's over. I'm not teaching him to read anymore, but he has a massive library of his own books. And by the way, Jonathan is not a rock star. He can't comb his hair or brush his teeth. He can read like crazy, and he has a phenomenal memory, but he's right smack in the middle. He's not a rock star, and he's not at the other end. He's somewhere right smack in the middle. All right, I want you to know that. So I'm not talking about a rock star here, a Down syndrome rock star. All right. So he's about 8.5. I'm cooking in the kitchen, and he comes in with one of his body books, we call them. He loved books about anatomy. So every children's book about anatomy that I found, I bought. All right. So I'm cooking. He walks into the kitchen with one of his books, and he's all excited. And he says, "Look, Mom, the digestive system and the skeletal system." And my jaw's on the floor because I was his only reading teacher. I did not teach him those words, and he isn't hearing them anywhere. So it just blew me away. So yes, they figure it out. Down syndrome or not, they figure it out. This is an example of implicit phonics or analytic phonics. If you want to break it down to make it to make it clearer, you can do that. I did that for a few words, and I realized that's useless. He's already decoding. I don't need to do this. All right. But the phonics system that's used in the schools, and it's not just us. It's not just the United States. Because I've taught around. All right. So it's also Canada. It's also the UK. Everybody is now, as of since 2008, since then, England came on board with synthetic phonics. So all of the schools are pushing synthetic phonics, thinking it's going to work. And it's not. Synthetic phonics goes from the meaningless part, has zero meaning for our kids with autism, Down syndrome, other delays. It means nothing. Blends, digraphs, diphthongs are learned first, later assembled into words, which typically are low interest words anyway. It requires working memory. Working memory, what's working memory? The ability to hold a number of bits of information at the same time in your brain and work with that and relate them to each other. It requires working memory and cognitive ability frequently beyond the grasp of our learners. Not to mention short auditory memory, for example. All right. So please don't. Now, hopefully, if you're getting flack from the school, oh no, we have to, and your child is not doing well learning synthetic phonics and they're pushing it, read the book, read whole child reading, and it'll give you some ammunition to take in. All right. And try to work around that. Since our learners are struggling with these challenges, all of these that I just mentioned, what do? We meet their needs and we address the learning weaknesses and strengths of the learner. Okay. Now, there are only 4 strategies in this whole child reading method. 3 are teaching methods. The 4th one is a testing method. All right. So that's it. Just 4 strategies. All right. Do you need a breath? Everybody needs to take a breath. You doing okay? You're with me? Fast flash, sandwich style teaching, and the magic decoding card. Those are the 3 teaching strategies. And by the way, I have over 100 videos on YouTube, on my YouTube channel. You want a refresher, you want more information, you just go there and type in, in the little, in the search box, the search line, just type in one of these: fast flash, sandwich style teaching, comprehension, anything you want. All right. And fourth, errorless testing. And that technique is from Pat Olwine at the University of Washington, who wrote the book about it, etc. But we have 3 teaching, 1 testing. All right, let's talk about fast flash. It is, I've talked about, I mentioned right hemisphere learning technique. That's what this is. It's a right hemisphere learning technique of teaching with the flashcards. It's super fast, and it synchronizes with the way the brain, the speed at which the brain prefers to take in information. Holding up a flashcard and going, ball, ball, baby, da, 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 da. Going over and over again, holding up one flashcard and saying, what is that? What's that word? What is that? Ball. And the kid is sound asleep by this time, right? No, this is like lightning. Bam, 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 bam. All right. At that speed, the brain retains it. It works well with our kids because they're strong visual learners, like 98% of them. Typically the case with autism as well. Strong visual learners. How fast? 1 card per second is a little bit slow. If you can do 2 cards per second, you got it. All right. So I'm going to show you an example. And this is little Eduardo. And if I could have cloned this kid, I would have. He's like the model kid for watching flashcards, because a lot of students are going to be looking at anything except the flashcard. And I'll explain what to do in that case later. But he does have a reward. Notice to the left of him is a little brown ball in a case. That's what he gets. After he sits and attends, he gets to play with his ball. All right.
Are you ready? Okay. Yeah. Want pizza? No. Yum. Yes. Want pizza? No. Yum. Yes. Want pizza? No. Yum. Yes.
3 times. 3 times.
Awesome. You watch so well. Thank you. High five.
And he did watch so well. And his mom told me a story. She didn't know he had started to decode. She's just bringing him every week. And she was going through a tough time. And so she had taken a Post-it and written, "I am strong," and put it on her bathroom mirror. And little Eduardo was in the bathroom with her. And she looked over at him and realized he was staring at that Post-it. And she could see him mouthing it. She could see him sounding it out. And he said to her, "Why did you write 'I am strong'?" And she went, "Oh, whoops. I got to be careful what I write," because he can read it. All right. This is one of the videos on YouTube, and I'm going to show it now because you need this information.
Let's talk about some fast flash mistakes that can derail you. You're going to use 5 cards in a group. You're going to flash them from back to front. You're going to grab them at the top center of the card so that you can move them more quickly. You're going to do it 3 times in succession, and you're going to try to do it quickly, 1 or 2 cards per second. Practice makes perfect. Here are some don'ts. Don't move the cards around the side. You'll never move them fast enough. Don't call out the word before it actually lands in your hand. For instance, don't do this. Ears, nose, teeth. You understand. All right. And don't slant the cards down or up, making it more difficult for the child to see. And lastly, don't let the child repeat the word. If the child repeats the word, you're going way too slow. And we only want eyes and ears so that the brain can retain it really quickly. Here are some do's. Do laminate the cards. They'll move much faster. Do sit across from the child so you can see the child's eyes and where the attention is. Do hold the cards a little bit above the child's eye level. Neurolinguistic programming loves that position. And what if the child won't look at the cards? Slap them down on the table 3 times in succession. I've never seen that fail with a student that won't look up. So I hope that helps. And at the next...
Okay. A couple of things. One is it's really, really important that the child is not repeating the word. And as I mentioned in the video, if you go too slow, You're going to give them time to do that. But a lot of kids, even if you're going at the right speed, 2 per second, they're still going to be trying to say the words. Why? That's their training. If they've been trained in school, what's this word? All right, they've got to say it. So your job is to retrain, and it can be done. It takes a while, but use whatever phrase is meaningful for that child. In my classes, in my lessons, I used to say, just shh, zip the lip, shh, 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 zip the lip. And you have to keep reminding them. Remind them before you flash, remind them after. All right. Why 5 cards? Because typically our kids have 5 working memory channels. That's comfortable for them. The neurotypical population has about 7, sometimes as much as 9. And if you think back to in the old days, our phone numbers used to be 7 digits. Why? Because neurologically that fits. But then further broken up into 3 and 4, so we can remember more easily. So 5 cards is great. 3 times. Why flash the cards 3 times? Twice is not enough. 4 times is boring. We've lost them. All right. Okay, 3 times. In the beginning, it depends on the age of your learner. Now this is obviously a baby who's reading. This is from the cover of Glenn Doman's book, How to Teach Your Baby to Read. In the beginning, red cards if possible. Why? The brain's attracted to red. This is research based. Later on, it doesn't matter. Once you've got their attention, once they're launched, they're really rocking along as a reader, not a problem. Black is fine, and you can buy standard flashcards online. And if you have a toddler, you're going to want to do this, 2 inches high. At least that is Glenn Doman's recommendation, and that's what I followed, even though Jonathan was 4.5. All right. Why the speed? If you really want to get into the whole neurological part of it, you can go to rightbraineducationlibrary.com and find out about the work of Glenn Doman, and then in Japan, Dr. Shichida and the Higuru method, both in Japan. All right. Now, all 3 of these guys started locally, and they're all worldwide now. So, because it works. Speed, fast, plus size, huge, plus frequency. I teach 5 minutes twice a day if that's all you've got. The important point is to get in twice with a total break in between, and they're doing whatever, they're playing, they're eating, whatever, and then you come back in for a second deposit. That is what makes it for the brain. That equals brain success. All right. Seconds first. So first strategy, fast flash. Sandwich style teaching is the second. All right. The bread before and after are the flashcards that relate to the peanut butter and jelly. All right. We never teach unrelated words. The peanut butter and jelly is the reward. So let's say, for instance, it's the spaghetti book, which is from my series. Well, they know they're gonna read that, and they love spaghetti, and it's a funny book. So they're gonna sit through those first 5 cards, read the book together, then flash the same 5 cards again. For more advanced readers, if you want to do 10 words, that's fine, but 5 and then another 5. We don't put 10 at the same time because of working memory. All right. So bread, flashcard, peanut butter and jelly, the really cool, whatever it is you're reading, and then the flashcards again. All right. We never, ever teach unrelated material, just random words. All right. Okay. Flashcards have to relate. We teach reading for meaning. That's what this whole gig is about. We teach reading for meaning, period. All right. Now here is a mom who put it all together. She's in Northern California, and she had attended an all-day workshop I gave there pre-COVID, and she just went to town with what she learned. So she's a pediatrician at Stanford. This is her daughter. So what you're going to see is the sandwich method. But her son stopped recording the personal book, which is what this is all about. So we don't see her getting all the way through the personal book, but yet she did. Okay, so here we go.
Slide, climb, swing, on, park. Slide, climb, swing, on, park. Slide, climb, swing, on, park. Okay, Anna.
Did you notice? And if not, notice it again at the end. The mom is holding the cards a little bit above Anna's horizon level so that neuralistic programming, the tip from neuralistic programming is that that position of a learner's eyes is the brain position at which it is easiest to memorize an image. All right. So there's a reason for all of this, in other words. Where's my, there we go.
The park.
She made this personal book exactly like I describe it in the book.
I can swim at the park. Are you ready? Okay. I can swim at the park.
Okay, now the system that I recommend for personal books is first there's just a type, there's no picture. This is the tough part. And then after the page turn, she gets the reward of a huge picture and the same sentence, which is always in smaller type because you have to make room for the picture, right? Okay, so just pointing that out.
I can swim at the park. I can swim at the park.
Good job. Okay, Eo. Slide, climb, swing, on, park. Slide, climb, swing, on, park. Slide, climb, swing, on, park.
Okay, any questions about that? Put the questions in your mind. We'll have questions at the end. All right. All right. Third strategy. And when the first issue of Whole Child Reading came out, I had not finessed this yet. I was still developing it. But now in the new book, there's a whole chapter on it. And there's a whole chapter in the Spanish translation as well. All right. What is a magic decoding card? Okay, so I'm in the DSALA office and a mom brings in her early teen son. I think he was about 11 or 12. And she said, he's really doing pretty well. He reads at about a first grade level, but I want to move him on. I said, that's fine. So I had this little narrow table, all right, because I'm right in the child's face, right? So I got out one of my first grade books from my reading program and he starts reading. Well, he's here. His mom is directly behind him, can't see a thing that we're doing. All right. So he's reading along and he's doing fine. And then he just stops because he does not know that word, the next word. And I took a blank card. I have a blank card. It's just a business card. And I put it down over everything except the first sound, not the first letter, the first sound. Usually when I'm using this card, I would say, what's that sound? But he didn't need that. And intuitively, I knew that he was past needing that. So I didn't say a word. I just exposed the first sound. And then I exposed the second sound, pulled the card away a little bit. Then I pulled the card away completely and he read the word. So when the session was over, his mother said, what was that? Was that a magic card? He doesn't know the word. You put that card down and he says the word. So this is the method. This is the strategy, all right? And this is a card that I send out when people order my program. All right, what's that sound? Because the word under there is puppy and pizza. And I've asked the student for puppy, for example. What's that sound? Puh, puh. Oh, right away, it's clicking. Oh, that's, the other one's P and this is puh. Okay, I think I know this word. And then you pull it away. Now, keep in mind, you're fast flashing these cards. You don't put a brand new, never seen before card in front of a beginning reader, an emergent reader. All right. So what about if you're reading a whole page? This is a page from one of my first grade books. Let's say the student's doing great. He gets to glasses and he just stops. All right. What's that sound? G, gla, gla. Pull it away. Oh, glasses. Yeah. I remember now. All right. So those are the three teaching strategies. Fast flash, sandwich style teaching, which is based on repetition and coordination with the reading material. And then the magic decoding card. All right. Errorless testing. This came from Pat Olwine at the University of Washington. It still works. It goes from easy to medium to hard. But in my years of teaching, I realized, you know what, this isn't enough. And you need to add a fourth step, and I'll show you. But matching, selecting, naming. All right. we need a fourth step, because guess what? There are lots of learners who can name a card and cannot generalize it. If you put it in a brand new sentence somewhere else or wherever in other material, no, I don't know that. All right, so we have to help them take that fourth step and generalize. And there is a super easy, no cost way to do that. And that's by creating personal pages, which you do by hand. You don't even need a computer if you can print nicely. And I'll go into a little bit more of that later. Fast, easy, effective. All right. More about testing in our second meeting. Okay, but let's recap strategies. Fast flash, sandwich style teaching, magic decoding card. All right. So we go in through the heart and teach to the brain. All right, I've given you the brain strategies. How do we go in through the heart? Oops, okay, yes. Oh, this slide is out of order, but there you go. This is what is available as a download, a PDF download on my site, or if you want the discs themselves, which people don't much use anymore. But anyway, everything is on a PDF and you can just download it. All right. So I'll go back to, there we go. For the Special Reads program, all right. There are 4 components. It has to be fun. It has to be fun or we can't engage them. So that's the first step. Secondly, we have to teach what's necessary. What do I mean? All those word lists that the school says, oh, he can't move on to the next level because he doesn't know these words yet. Okay, we have to teach those. And there's a lot of common sense behind that, because the high frequency word list of Dr. Dolch, which is what my books are built on, because he formulated the words most frequently read from kindergarten to second grade. So we have to start there. Let's get those out of the way. What makes so much sense is our kids will struggle less if they learn that first word list first, because that's going to be the most frequent thing they ever have to read in every sentence that they'll ever read. All right. Third, we need to evaluate the comprehension. Maybe they're doing okay with reading. Are they understanding what they read? And fourth, I need to give you teaching directions. So those are the 4 components of my program, which you can find at specialreads.com. All right, part 1. These are the fun picture books. And as you look at the titles, can you see a common denominator here? You know, and I feel sometimes I have a little guilt about pushing unhealthy foods, pizza and ice cream or whatever. But hey, you know, I want to engage them. So these are just close-ups of some of them. All right. Okay, so interior, no picture there. Picture comes next. And that's a very silly book. There's a really cool thing that happened. So I knew from raising Jonathan that he had a hilarious sense of humor and he loved ridiculous things. So in the first maybe 20 years that I'm teaching workshops, I would say kids with Down syndrome have a really high appreciation of ridiculousness. Well, so and that's why I made these books like I did. Years later, I came across a quote from Dr. Langdon Down, Dr. Down, who identified the syndrome, and he said, quote, "Individuals with Down syndrome have a heightened sense of the ridiculous." And I went, seriously? Same wavelength, I guess. Wow. Anyway, okay, so what you're looking at here, except for the Educator's Guide and the Whole Child Reading, which comes with the program, but the other books are the high frequency word lists books. It teaches step by step by step with repetition. In the back of every one of those books are the high frequency words that it teaches in that book, and then the content or high interest words that it teaches in that book, like pizza or mommy or mom or whatever. All right. This is an example of the very, very first book. Now, for an emergent reader, for materials that you're developing at home, like the Stanford mom who had just the words, just the sentence. You turn the page. Oh, there's this great picture and the same words. I couldn't do that with boring high frequency words. Who cares about the, a, and, into? Who cares about that? Not our kids. All right. So I had to engage at the same time. But looking at the screen, you could see what I have done is make the type competitive. It's also demanding the brain's attention because the type is larger. And it's sans serif, no serifs on the end of that font. There are probably 100 sans serif fonts. Just go to your Word document. Just look for a font that doesn't have the curly cues on the end. Arial, Tahoma, Verdana, there are just a million of them. Anyway, I've made it competitive. So the child, yes, the brain is first going to go to the picture, and then it's going to drop down to the type because the type is also interesting to the brain. All right, these are 2 right-hand pages. You don't see the cat when you're reading riddle number 1. This is from the next level, what is called the primer level of vocabulary. All right, you turn the page and you see, oh, I am a cat. Then you turn another page and you have to read this. What did you say? I said that. I am black. You have to read again. It's repetition. This is book 4 from that middle level. It gets harder. And you see that the type is smaller. This is a page from the first grade book. Now, I am never going to put a page of black type in front of one of our kids and expect them to say, oh, that's fine. I think I'll read that. No, because FOF syndrome kicks in. That's another syndrome I made up. Fear of failure. And you have seen this. If you've been working with your child, you have seen this. No, you put something in front of them and they're thinking, that's too hard. I can't do it. So if they're verbal, they're going to give you pushback. If they're nonverbal, they're just going to turn away and go do something else. Try to get away and do something else. So what did I do here? I do what I'm trying to encourage you to do. You break it up and you have funny pictures. You break it up. So, oh, I think I can do this. So what you want is to get behind the eyes of your learner or your student if you're a teacher. Get in their brain, behind their eyes. How does this feel to them? Whatever I'm putting in front of his face or her face, how does that feel? Oh, okay, maybe I need to change something. All right. This is another first grade book. And at this level, if they're reading at a first grade level, the pictures are not a distraction. It's just fun. They'll look at the pictures first. You can do a picture walk through if you want. And then they're happy to read the text because this is really interesting. Oh, I like this. All right. And it's not a struggle for them. All right. All right. What about comprehension? So I have a comprehension series and each level relates to the books that actually teach those words. Right. So, and I think I've got a sample later, I hope, of what's inside. Your teaching aid. This is for you. Quick start guide. Where do I start? I don't know. What do I do? Whole child reading is the textbook and it's a quick read. It's an easy read. I had one teacher write me an email and say, I read it in one day. Great. All right. Educator and parent guide. I'll show you what's inside. All right. There's a scaffolding plan. Where do you start? And the very top, it says letter sounds. How do you design a teaching session? How much time do you have? Time tracking management tool. This is a reality check. It says the date, session 1, session 2, how many minutes? I don't care if it's 2 minutes. Record it, and then there's a space for notes. You will see what effort produces, all right? And this is super, super helpful. In the back, the second half of the educator and parent guide are running records. Let's say you're teaching the IC book. You want to teach the IC book. Well, I don't know what flashcards I need. Open your white book, your white guide, and there it says right at the beginning, high frequency words. Brrr, it's in alphabetical order. Content words at the bottom. All right. The high frequency words are in the black pack, the pack of black and white flashcards, and they're in alphabetical order. You just find what you need. The content words are what I email as PDFs, and they're read. And I asked the parent or teacher to print and cut, print, laminate, cut. And so you've got all the words in your packet for all the books in the whole program. And these cards are included in, here are the red cards that I emailed to you. All right, let's look inside this so you can see. I designed this entire program, comprehension program, to be used by kids who are completely nonverbal. If they're verbal, fabulous. But if they're completely nonverbal, maybe they have severe apraxia, it's not a problem. I designed it so they can take these tests. What you use is just a clear acetate sheet over this page and give them a dry erase marker, and they just make a mark on the correct. They can read it silently and make a mark on the correct answer. This is from the next level. This is what the comprehension book at the next level looks like. They just make a little mark on what they will eventually have to do at school is make a mark on a little circle. So we're kind of getting them ready for that. All right, this is the first grade. This is different. This is at a different level. We're teaching referential comprehension. Our next class, we're going to talk about comprehension, but just briefly, there are two kinds, referential. Oh, I can refer back and find the answer. It's right there in black and white. The more advanced kind of comprehension is inferential. I have to infer. I have to figure this out. I have to take these abstract concepts that I just read about and come up with an answer. We do this step first, referential comprehension. So who the puppy? What? Go for a walk. When you listen to a story. I give two versions of every one of the stories in this in the first grade comprehension book. First, we train them, and then we have them walk through that without color coding. The color coding gets them started and gets them understanding. Later on, we can dispense with that. All right, so those are your ready-made materials that I've spent 30 plus years creating. All right, now there's the do-it-yourself stuff. All right. Personal pages, personal books, lotto games, personal lotto games, and modified books. So we'll do a quick run through of those. Personal pages. All right, it's in all the details are in the book. All right. Personal book example, you already saw that in the video. Here's another example of that. All right, here's the higher level. All right, lotto games, I sell these on my site, 6 different sets. They're regular size, 8.5 by 11, so that you don't have to do it. But a personal lotto would be, for example, there's six rectangles or squares, almost square. Family, a family lotto, you know, mom, dad, grandparents, pets, whatever. These are so high interest, and you can target the child's particular interests. If there's a rock star that they like, if there's a music, artist that they like, it's okay to teach those words, because all we want to do is engage. And them learning those words is going to actually eventually help with decoding. All right. Modified book. What is that? Now, if we had more time, I'd go into a whole lot more on each of these. But for instance, let's say you're 6, you're a girl, you love Frozen. All right. And I show you the one on the left. And I say, oh, let's read. I'm going to show you how to read. And you're thinking, I don't think so. I'm just going to look at the pictures, please. But if I modify it, and you see the one on the right, again, what have I done? I've made the type competitive. The type is huge. Not only that, not only have I reduced it, I've said the important parts, right? So this student at 6, she probably already knows Anna. She's been watching the Disney Channel, and she probably knows that. All right. And then, oh no, is emotionally charged. Super easy to learn. And then she's got 2 verbs, rides and falls. All right. And you've made the flashcards for those words that she doesn't know. So you flash, you read the Anna book, you flash again. This is gold. This is gold. And I have another DSALA story about that. So I had done one. Let me see. Oh, wait. Yeah, I think it's coming up. All right. So I redid this one. I went to the whole book about loves. Bert loves pigeons. Ernie loves drums. Count loves numbers. Blah, 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 blah. Repetition. And are they engaged? You bet they are. All right. Let me see if I have it. No. Okay. So it's actually a story about this young man. I think he was 13. Is anybody his dad? Because I never met his dad. So if he's your son, this is just a really good story. One of the books, trade books meaning published about, by the regular trade publishers, was a Shrek 2 book. All right. And it had taken me an eternity to modify this Shrek 2 book for readers like Pierce. But it was worth it. It was worth it because when his mom brought him in, she said, I know he reads at a first grade level. He won't read anything. I can't get him to read anything. So at the end, he's reading a personal page about his girlfriend. And did he want to read this? Are you kidding me? So his mom brings him in. She leaves the room and I know he doesn't want to read anything. All right. And so I said, hey, Pierce, do you have a girlfriend? Oh, yes. And her name is blah, 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 blah. And she has beautiful black hair. So I'm writing like crazy. I'm writing, and it's 3 pages. Did he want to read it? Yes. Okay. So one day, back to the Shrek 2 book. One day, his mom would sometimes want a 30-minute lesson, sometimes 45. So this day, I thought she wanted a 30. No, she wanted, it turned out, a 45. But I teach him for 30 minutes. I take him out to her car because she's working on her phone. And she says, oh no, I wanted 45 minutes. Well, by this time, Pierce is in the back seat with his headphones on, rocking away. And I'm thinking, are you kidding? I have to get this teenager out of the car. And are you kidding me? How am I going to do that? He's already rocking, But I stuck my head in the window and I said, hey, Pierce, do you want to read the Shrek 2 book? Wham! Earphones were off. He's out of the car. He's in the building. And whoa. So the motivation is just, you have, when you hit it right, you really hit it. All right. Personal pages. Super fast. You can do it in 5 or 10 minutes. Easy. Kids love it. You can actually send a copy into the school if you're doing it at home, or school can send it back to you. This is how we generalize vocabulary. What you do is take the vocabulary you hope the learner has learned and you rewrite it into sentences about his or her life, what's going on for them. All right. So, and there are no limits. If a child is addicted to an iPad, you write personal pages about the iPad and how much they love them. Nothing is off limits. And this was my model student, Eduardo. He came in one day, threw himself on the floor. No, he was just very upset. So I found out that the problem was he had lost his horse watch. All right, so I left him on the floor and I got his favorite color. And I showed a few slides back. I had all of these different colors of marker. I would let them pick the color they want. And then I would write the story. What you're seeing is my photocopy in gray. All right, but the color copy went home with the child. Anyway, so I started reading. I started writing. Eduardo said, where is my horse watch? Well, I hadn't gotten halfway through the page. He's off the floor, in place, ready to go, wanting to read that page. Of course, it's about him. It's about what he's going through. All right. So this is at a higher level, but still notice spaces between the words, spaces between the lines. Nice printing, as nice as you can get it. All right. Now, here's the beauty of this. Either get yourself a ream of 3-hole punch paper or get a hole punch and use regular bond. But you want to put them in a 3-ring binder because what you have created is 2 things. A diary they can go back and read, oh, I had pizza on that day or whatever it was. And it's a vocabulary review tool. It is amazing. Go back 5 pages and have them read that. Are they going to be interested in doing that? Yes. Why? It's about them. All right. It's an incredible tool and it costs you nothing. It costs you paper and a 3-ring binder. All right, real quickly, visual design for the brain. We have to make it easy. Lots of white space on the page. And you've probably noticed everything that I've shown you so far, lots of white space on the page. Why? White space tells the brain, don't look here, look there. Oh, right, okay. Large type, double or triple space between each word, extra space between the lines. And in the beginning, no pictures in the same visual field. Turn the page, get the picture and get the type again. All right, all right. These, I've already shown you that. All right. Lastly, I want you to know about my resources, my free resources for you. All right. Well, that's not free. Okay. And the ebook and my website. So on my website, there's a blog link, a blog in the menu. Prior to COVID, I was blogging all the time. So there are lots of articles there, and there's a search box on the blog page. No problem. Just type in what you want. Now, when COVID started, I changed and I went to creating videos just about every week. So that's where the YouTube collection came in. All right. This is an example. All right. And this little kid on the right, I can't believe it, 4 years old, going through chemotherapy, and he's learning to read with this method. I mean, his mom was determined. And on the left is a student from Northern California. He came in at 33, couldn't read. He's legally blind. One eye is completely blind and the other is very compromised. And he's reading one of my lookbook, is what it's called. And his mom told me that the day he sat and read the lookbook out loud to his little tiny niece and nephew, she said, I just sat there and cried. I just didn't think he was going to be able to read. But how did I get into him? If you notice his shirt, it's the USC Trojans. Every article of clothing that this prince of a guy owns has the Trojans somewhere on it, from the socks to the shoes to the hat to everything. So that's where I started. I started with, a book about UC Trojans. All right. The other thing was, how was I going to teach him? Our kids can learn bigger than they can read eventually when they start reading. So he's able to read the type that you see there, although his eyes will get tired. But I taught him to read on a massive whiteboard, and I used the wipe off, the dry erase markers, and made the type this big. And I would go before him writing it out, and he would walk right after me. We were walking along the side of the wall, and he would read that way. And that's how he learned. So Facebook page, it's called Down Syndrome Reading with Natalie Hale. YouTube channel, it's a little crazy to get there. Type in Natalie Hale Down Syndrome. That'll bring you to this page. Click on the profile picture, and that gets you here. So then just click on the videos. And I have an Instagram account, which I sometimes ignore. So if you really want to know what's going on, go to my Facebook page and my YouTube page. Now, quick answer to this question. What materials do you use and when? When do you move on? When do you introduce new material? All right. There's a scaffolding plan. It gets you to the same place eventually. But as you're teaching letter sounds from the beginning, do you wait until they know all their letter sounds before you? No, you don't wait. You do it concurrently. But maybe you're going to use one of my picture books. Maybe you're going to make a personal book, maybe a personal lotto game. There are lots of ways in, but you get to the same place. All right, here's your challenge. You have to use your intuition. You have a balancing act. You go too slow, you're going to lose them because they'll get bored. You go too fast, they'll be overwhelmed and discouraged, and you'll lose them. So use your intuition. And Sandra's going to email you something called the parent recipe, which takes you week by week. What do I do? I don't know. You said 5 minutes twice a day. What am I going to do? So she will email you that along with the PDF of this PowerPoint. But here's what you have to keep in your brain. You have to keep it fresh, as if you're shuffling a deck of cards. Maybe the spaghetti book first. Maybe personal pages next, lotto game, the IC book, personal book, analytic phonics, modified books, letter sounds throughout. you mix it up so it's not boring. All right. Everything. Don't ever ask me, well, do I teach this sandwich style? The answer is always yes. I don't care what it is. If it's a lotto game, whatever it is, we teach first, and then we teach the brain rapidly first, then we read the material, and then we teach the brain rapidly again. It's all about the brain. All right. Hook them first, then teach. All right. What's your first step? And this is going to be on your handout. Let's say you're guessing, maybe they're at the very beginning. So you're going to have to start with the IC book. So you grab that book and you see how many words they know already. If they don't know any, then you know what your level is. But if that's too easy, then pick the next one up the line in this series. Then when you think you've found the right level, choose the corresponding comprehension book and turn to that level, that book, and see if they can read it. And then adjust. Go up, go back. All right, so you would need these 3 things because you want to keep a record of, which words they already know, which ones are they working on. All right. Next session, we're going to talk about testing, Pat Olwine's technique, matching, selecting, naming. We'll talk about comprehension. There's some good tips there for teaching our particular learners. Fluency, CAS, childhood apraxia of speech, autism spectrum disorder, ASD, diagnostic overshadowing, and the parent recipe. All right. Sandra mentioned this briefly. The certification course I teach is open to parents and educators. Sometimes they are parents and educators. Doesn't matter. It's an 8-week course, 2 contact hours with me per week. You have homework. I limit it usually to 4 participants, and it's by Zoom. And the meeting time is arranged unanimously. It has to work for everybody. And if you want information on that, you can just tell Sandra. And there we go, Q&A. All right. I'm going to stop the share. All right. So what did I forget, Sandra? There's something you want to say? You're trying to unmute yourself.
Sorry. No, no, it's just that I guess we're gonna, once whatever you're sending me, I'll send it to everyone who's joined the call. But if you have any questions, please, yeah, we have 10 more minutes for questioning and for questions, and then
Yeah. And one thing I want to say, Sandra mentioned homework. If you want to, you know what? I will need to, Sandra, I already sent you the PDF of the whole PowerPoint, and I sent you the parent recipe. But you know what I'm thinking? Let me also send you a handout for how to create personal pages for people who don't have the book. All right. So I want to suggest, if you want to do some homework between now and the next 3 weeks, create a personal page for your child and then video yourself teaching the child that page, and we can actually look at it next time. That is part of the certification courses. Every week, everybody who's participating has to submit a video, and then I give feedback, and everybody learns from that. So if you have courage and you want to do that, that's great. You can send Sandra the video, or send me well, she'll send it to me. And then we all learn that way. So don't let me forget, Sandra, I need to send you one more thing. I sent you the rest last night, but
there's all 3 attachments. Yes.
Okay. Oh, wait a minute. Can you see what those attachments are? Maybe I already sent you the personal pages. Maybe I thought ahead.
Look at that. And there's, can you take a look at
What?
what is it, the comments, the
Oh yeah, hold on a sec.
chat?
The chat?
While I look for this.
Okay. Yeah, the recording video is going to be sent to you. You're going to get the link from Sandra, right, Sandra?
So the recording, I'm gonna post it on our YouTube channel. So
Okay.
hopefully we'll have that the next few days. Possibly, I try to do it within that week, and then you have it for the next time. And I'll also, I'm gonna follow up with everyone. And then I can also send you the link to our YouTube channel. So you can also see all our recordings from our Saturday seminars as well. So.
Okay, I'm looking at the chat. One question was, how old is she? Are you talking about the little girl who couldn't articulate, and then 2 years later she's really articulating really well? I think she came in at about 8, and I think she's at about 10 when the second video was taken. Do I still teach in person? Eric, yeah, you asked, do I still teach in person? No, what I teach is the parents. On my website, which is specialreads.com, at the top menu bar, it says personal consults. What I do is if a parent clicks there and purchases that, I meet with you for an hour and I split it up. I meet with you for a half hour and I give you training. And then I require you to make a little short 3 or 4 minute video of you teaching your learner with what I've taught you. And then we meet for another 30 minutes. I give you feedback on that. So it's huge. Then I know what's going on. I know how your learner likes to learn. I know what you understand. And so then there's a second half hour.
So Natalie, we have a 75-minute webinar, parent recipe, speaker introduction for groups.
Okay, no, I need to send you I'll do that as soon as we hang up. I'll send you the personal page handout so you can send it to everybody. It just tells you how to do it if you want to do that. All right. Okay, so Lynn says he attended Every Child a Reader at Club 21. He reads, but mostly homework. That's no fun, right, Lynn? He needs to be reading some really cool stuff. And if you can focus on that and modify it as he needs or whatever, his reading will take off and he'll be independent. All right, what do you think about reading dual languages, Chinese and English? Good question, very good question. I'm going to give you the advice from Down's Ed International, which is also my advice. The first language you need to teach your child to read is the one he's going to school in, because that's where the pressure is. That's what he's going to have to learn first. Once he is really getting really well established in that, definitely go for the Chinese. Now, of course, he understands Chinese, right? And if he's verbal, he is speaking Chinese. You want both of those languages going at home. And what we know now, how old is your child? Fan. Just you type in, how old is your child? The child you're talking about reading dual languages.
He's 5. He's 5.
5? Okay, perfect. What we know now, since there's neurology has phenomenal machinery, equipment to actually look in the brain, a child like your child who's 5, that part of the brain that's responsible for language, in his case, is double coded. He has learned Chinese and English probably from birth. So he's got double coding, which means he's never going to have to translate from one language to the other in his brain. They're both there. He's got them both. But as far as learning to read, the advice we give is teach him to read first in the language that the school is going to be taught in. And then secondarily go on with the Chinese. And of course you can have Chinese, on signs around the house. Absolutely. On the fridge, everywhere. There's nothing wrong with that. That's great. Yeah. He's in an immersion school. And what does that mean in your case?
Yeah, he's in the school, dual language school. They teach Chinese and English.
All right. So what do they require that he first learn to read in? That's the important question. What do they want him to read in? Or are they trying to teach him to read?
Yeah, I didn't have chance to talk to the speech therapist yet, but I did talk to his TK speech therapist and his private speech therapist as well. Both of them suggest to give him opportunity to do dual language.
Well, it all depends. You have to find out what the classroom is demanding. I'm really not concerned about the speech therapist, but the teacher or the assistant teacher. What is he required to read in the classroom?
Yeah, they do have a Mandarin class, half English class. Like morning is English, afternoon is Mandarin. But now the Mandarin class general teacher feels his behavior kind of gave the challenging time in the class. But my son knows counting numbers Mandarin from 1 to 10 already. There are only 5 students in the general class can do that. And I'm not very sure, so that's why I ask you.
Yeah. If I understand what you're saying, in the Mandarin class, he's got some behavioral issues.
He got behavior issue in both English and Mandarin class. So the English teacher, general teacher, seems has the philosophy of inclusive education. So
Yeah.
she's okay to deal with the behavior, but the Mandarin class general teacher focus on the negative behavior. So she believes my son is not learning Mandarin at all, but he is learning.
He may not be.
Yeah.
You know what I want you to do? I want you to do a little test. I want you to pick a word like whether it's mama or whatever it is, and make a nice big flashcard with that word on it, and then a nice big flashcard with the Mandarin symbol on it. And you ask him to choose. Which one do you like? We have to find out what his preference is. We have to find out what's easier for him. All right.
Okay.
So I would do that with several words until you get a really good idea of, okay, but they have to be high interest words like mom, dad, etc.
Yes.
Not random words, okay?
Do you still doing in-person class for kids?
No, just now I'm teaching the parents and the educators. Since COVID, I stopped. Yeah, I stopped teaching the children. However, when I'm working with parents, whether it's the personal consult or it's my certification class for 8 weeks, I'm working with the kids. I'm working with their kids. I'm helping them learn how to teach their kids most effectively. So I'm still working with kids. It's just, through the parent. And so we can see the progress week by week by week as the parent learns or the teacher learns how to use this method. And then it starts working.
Yeah, based on the research given by Canadian organization called Dual Language Learning for Individuals with Down Syndrome, they did lots of research that Down syndrome kids definitely can do dual language. That's what.
Yeah, absolutely. Language, no problem. As far as reading, again, well, he's in a dual language school, but think about where is he going to go after grade school? Will the next school be teaching only in English?
That's good. Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, I would stress the English first. Although English is a weird language. I mean, my daughter is an ESL teacher now at a university, and she says, there are more exceptions to phonics rules in English than there are phonics rules. I mean, it's a crazy language. It's a dumb language. Sorry. It really is. I'm glad I didn't have to learn it as a second language.
One of the things, Natalie, maybe you can mention also regarding behavior issues, because I feel like if a child has some severe behavior issues, then it's more difficult to learn, to do other stuff,
Oh, right. That's why next class I'm going to go really into ASD/ADD/ADHD, how to kind of work around that, how to do the best we can with helping those children or young adults or teens. Because so when you say, Fan, when you say that, your son has behavioral issues, there's a reason for that. There's a reason for that. He's trying to tell us something and he can't formulate, I'm really bored in this class. Or I really feel like it's over my head. I think I'd rather be doing something else. We expect him to do that? No, he's going to act out. So finding out what the issue is. And you can do that. There is a YouTube video that I made that's called Meltdowns. And I highly recommend you watch it 3 or 4 times. And one of the ways you need to get to what's going on inside of him during those times, teacher, whatever, said that, you didn't seem too happy in class. Did you feel sad? Did you feel frustrated? Believe it or not, even at age 5, our kids can figure out what frustrated means, which is why one of the books in my series is all about, it's titled So Many Feelings, frustration, anger, nervous. If you can feed your child those words like, that must make you feel really, really frustrated, or that must make you feel kind of whatever. You feed him the word and then watch his reaction. Because my son, when I would do that with my son, it would be like, yeah, and then you just sit with that for a while, and then you maybe find another feeling. That gives you information. And then you can take it from there and try to work with the situation. Since he's only 5, it's going to be up to you to make the changes. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you.
Sure.
And can you put the name of the video in the chat? The video you just mentioned?
Yeah, in the YouTube channel?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The name of the video?
Meltdowns. Just type in meltdowns and you'll get it.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
No, we hate meltdowns. Well, thank you so much, guys.
No, you have to go to my channel first, Natalie Hale Down Syndrome. And then that'll pull up the profile picture. Click that, then you get to the whole channel. All right.
You go to your channel, definitely. Thank you.
Don't put in Down syndrome reading because you'll get all kinds of other stuff. So Natalie Hale Down syndrome. Yeah. Linda's nodding. Have you tried that and got all kinds of other stuff? Yeah. All right. Okay, let's see.
Last question.
Oh, okay. I've heard great things about the book, Teaching Children with Down Syndrome How to Read. Have you heard of this book? Is your curriculum related to this? I think you're referring to the book I showed many slides back by Pat Olwine, Teaching Reading to Children with Down Syndrome. That is I recommend parents get that like a reference book. It's so yeah, I read it years ago, and yes, it's very related. This builds on that. Everything that Pat Olwine says to do is labor intensive because you have to do it yourself, which is why eventually I developed this program, and you can add on to it your personal things. But I just give you a ready-made package. And yes, it's very, very similar, although I pulled in the right hemisphere learning techniques that she doesn't use. She just uses, old-fashioned, regular. Yep, I recommend. I've got it on my shelf, that book. All right. Anything else?
I say thank you so much. And everyone else, thank you for spending your morning with us. We really appreciate it. Natalie, we're also grateful. You can join us and teach us more about reading. And we'll see you guys in, 3-4 weeks?
3 weeks? I think it's 3 weeks.
October 14th for the second part. And so Natalie, I can check out if you make some short videos or your work. I'm gonna forward all the information that Natalie's sent me, and you should have it by today or Monday. So,
and my email address is specialreads@yahoo.com. I have a couple of them, but that's the easy one because you can remember Yahoo. Specialreads@yahoo.com. You have questions? I've also heard of So Happy to Learn curriculum. Yes. Okay. So Happy to Learn curriculum. Yeah, Sandra, we'll just take a minute for this. So Happy to Learn curriculum came directly from Pat Olwine and How to Teach Your Children to Read. So Pat Olwine was Mrs. Brown's mentor. All right, so that's directly from there. The problem there is twofold. It's a great program. It's a great program for homeschoolers. Mine is also a really, really good program for homeschoolers. The problem with So Happy to Learn is you got to do it all yourself. You have to print all the pages and create various things and all of that. And she does not teach right hemisphere learning techniques. She's a brilliant teacher, but one-on-one, because I've observed her, I've spent a few days with her and watched her teaching her kids. So as a teacher, she's just brilliant. But the So Happy to Learn curriculum it's time intensive. It's labor intensive. It's good. It comes from Pat Olwine, but it doesn't have anything to do with right hemisphere learning techniques, which greatly accelerate the learning. And you can go on my site, you can look at, I have a testimonials tab, so you can read testimonies from parents, teachers, etc. Okay, so that's the difference. No brain techniques, and it's more labor intensive.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. And I'm going to stop the recording now.